I'm so excited for today's episode because we are going to talk about high-tech AAC devices and 5 super common mistakes that are made when it comes to these high-tech devices so we can DSD, do something differently, do something better, and we can empower these children to have improved communication skills through these 5 strategies we're going to cover today. Now, first of all, before we dive into high-tech AAC devices, I want to talk about why this is something you really want to invest a lot of time and energy in. It's worth that extra effort to get the high-tech device, to contact the county, to lend out the device, to do the extra paperwork. All of that extra is going to add up, and it's going to add up, according to the research, to A, the child enjoying using the device more. B, it's going to add up to the child making better communication outcomes than if they were using a low-tech device. And probably most importantly is that the child is going to have access to not 10 words, 100 words, but we're talking thousands of words in a robust high-tech device. And these words are organized in a manner that improves language comprehension and language expression. Let me explain. When these devices are here, they're not just randomly words that you go and find, they're organized by their function, which is what does this word do? What does this word accomplish? So maybe this word is eat. You're eating something. Then it's going to be divided by the class. What is the category of the word? Is this going to be a snack? Is this a dessert we're talking about? Is this a lunch food? Is this a breakfast food? Is this a dinner food? Then after that, you have the category. And then lastly, you have the specifics of the word. So is this a feature of the word? Is this a dairy product, for instance? And then you have the fringe word itself. The word is going to be cheese. So you're going through and learning the word cheese. And when you learn the word cheese, you're learning that this is something that you eat. This is a snack. It is a dairy product, and it's called cheese. By going through these layers on the device, you're getting this idea of the function, features, and class of the word. And the neat thing about the word when you have these high-tech devices is that children with autism often learn language using their eyes because their visual skills are their strengths. And what they're doing with these devices, they're seeing the word, and at the same time, they are seeing the picture of the word, they're seeing the print of the word, and they're hearing the word. It is multimodal. Many of our children with autism, it's estimated over 90%, have auditory processing issues. Unlike their neurotypical peers who hear words and they learn words with their ears, our kiddos tend to learn language with their eyes. So having access to a device with 4,000 words on it that are organized by their function, their feature, their class, and the specific word, and that the children are using in a meaningful manner and interacting with another, or even simply exploring it. This is important stuff. You can see just based on that, low tech doesn't offer that. Low tech gives you a picture of the thing. That's all you get. You don't get the spider web. You don't get the function of the word. You don't get the category of the word. You don't get the features of the word. You don't get the specific word all put together. We're taking this step back and we're thinking, it's time to make a choice. And that choice is let's go all in and we're going to do this messy. We're going to make mistakes, which we're going to cover today, some the most common mistakes. We're going to learn from our mistakes and we're going to do something different. Just understanding there's this technology to practice leg. We got to experience it when COVID hit, and suddenly, if you're like me, you're overnight doing teletherapy with 3-year-olds with special needs. Now, it's not easy. It really wasn't easy at all. We didn't know what we were doing. The technology was ahead of the therapy. We didn't learn in school. We didn't learn in a workshop how to do teletherapy. We didn't even know how to do Zoom or Google Meets. We were like, what's going on here? How did we learn? We did it messy. And we found out that what we had to do is do what we would do in therapy. And we'd have to do it a little bit differently, of course, But what we were doing in therapy was really working. We looked at what works and we said, how can we make what works in the digital world? That's what we figured out. And that's what I want you to keep in mind when we talk about AAC. I want you to think about these children and how they manipulate their parents' iPhones. And they can find anything on that iPhone in 2 seconds or less. They can find their favorite TV show, they can find their favorite song, their favorite video, whatever they want, Miss Rachel, whatever they're looking at in 2 seconds and less. And you look at this iPhone, and they're going to go through like 6 screens to find it on the array. And these are probably a 1/4 inch by a 1/4 inch in size. We're looking at that, and we're looking at them manipulating their iPad at such a highly fluent, accurate level. And looking at that is how we're going to know what can we do with, now these are not internet connected devices. These are iPads, supposedly, let's say call them iPads with high-tech AAC apps on them. Okay. So we want to think about, instead of thinking, okay, what did we learn 20 years ago about AAC and that training, and how we start with real objects, and then we move to photographs, and then we move to symbols, and then we move to just print. Now we're like, oh, they're already on the symbols. I can see that. Or at that AAC training that we attended years ago, where they talked about first the symbol's going to be 3 inches by 3 inches in size, and then we're going to make it smaller and smaller until it's finally at the very end, half inch size. Oh, they're already using symbols that are less than a 1/4 inch width and length. So these old rules don't apply. And you're actually better off, that causes interference, right? And then they have to prove that they're accurate with 2 symbols, and then we move to 3. We talked about that before. What does apply is look at the child. Look at what the child's doing, and then you're going to know what works. These are your professors. These children don't have a million letters behind their name. They don't have a million articles published or books published. They don't have a textbook like I do, but they know more than I do about how children with autism can learn to manipulate iPads fluently and accurately. Take notes from them. So we want to keep that in mind. We want to actually kind of forget what you learned 30 years ago about AAC. Instead, pay attention to these children with these devices. And what you can do is you can ask at the end, tell the parents at the end of the evaluation, I'd like you to bring out your phone or iPad at the end so I can see how they manipulate technology to see favorite TV show or their favorite movie or their whatever it is that they like on the iPad or the phone. And then that'll give you very, very valuable input as to what they're capable of when it comes to an array, when it comes to how symbolic you can be, when it comes to their knowledge, their motor skills, and their fluency in manipulating a screen with buttons. So that is where you're going to see what they're capable of. That's what you're going to want to pay attention to. And notice interest really matters. So we're also going to want to know, what are their interests? That's going to be hugely important to making this communication device relevant to them. It's like, whoa, this is great. It has all these words and symbols on it. Why do I care? Because it is compared with what you love, activities you love. Okay. So let's dive in to these 5 right here. Number 1, the most common mistake that professionals make is they make the symbols too big. We talked about this before. You see the child using the parent's phone, finding anything under the sun. The parent doesn't even know how to get to it. He knows how to get to it. Just give him the phone, he'll find it. And the symbols are miniature. And then I will see the therapist will come in with this robust AAC system, and they will put on it, and this is not any dig on an ABA therapist, but ABA therapists typically are trained from a discrete trial approach in which, okay, you start with one symbol, then you move to two, and then you move to three. They'll have four big symbols on this high-tech device. We have want, yes, no, help. Okay, that's how you, and here you have this child manipulating devices and manipulating the iPad or the iPhone so fluently, finding anything under the sun that they want to find. So the parent is seeing this mismatch. And then the therapist explaining, well, because of their motor skills, we have to make the symbols, 2 inches by 2 inches large. So we're only going to have four on a screen. Then after he's accurate for 3 days for 80%, we'll add more symbols to the array. And the parents looking at him picking symbols out of an array of 90 very fluently. So there's that mismatch. We don't want to make the symbols that big, and especially when the child doesn't need it. They're showing you, I don't need these big symbols. And when we make the symbols bigger, what that does is it changes the motor planning and motor programming. So if you have four big symbols on a screen, if you add two more, it reminds me of the rollover song. Here's from being in preschool SLP. The other two symbols come on, it's like roll over. So all the symbols move. So you don't get that automaticity of motor planning and programming because all the symbols had to move because you added two more. And when you add two more, the symbols are all going to move again. So they're going to move from the right side of the screen to the middle of the screen to the left of the screen. As you keep adding symbols, everything's moved around. You don't want things moving around. So we think about the QWERTY keyboard that we all use. We know that it's ineffective. We know that they put it that way so it slows us down when we're typing because typewriters would get jammed if typists went too quickly. However, we have not changed the QWERTY keyboard to a more efficient design because motor programming and motor planning, we have developed automaticity in knowing where these keys are. And if we move it, if we move one letter in that, it's going to ruin things. So we don't want to move the letters around. So what do? Don't make the symbols big. The experts would suggest 64 minimal on a screen. Keep the array like that. If it is too hard for the child to accurately locate symbols, we can hide symbols. You can just show them 5 symbols and hide the other 79 on that 84 screen so that they develop accuracy and motor planning, and then pop up more and add more and add more and add more and add more over time. But don't make them big. If you make them big, you're going to have to move them around. So think about that QWERTY keyboard. You don't want to be moving symbols around. So start with them small. You can hide all the rest and they can be spread out. Let's go to number 2. The second common mistake that professionals make with high-tech AAC devices is that they move the symbols around. So they will take the symbols and they're like, okay, we're going to put this symbol right in the middle because this is the most important one. This one, you're just going to say yes. It's going to be right in the middle of the screen. And then we're going to put this other one right next, right over here. Help. Yes, help. They're easy for you to locate. They're right in the middle of you guys. Once again, you're moving the symbols around. Just like the QWERTY keyboard, we need to keep the symbols in the same place. So what can you do? Hide the symbols. So if you're saying, oh, but the child has no accuracy with the symbols, they're finding it very hard to point to what they want because you have 84 symbols on the screen, go ahead and hide 82 of them. And if you just want to focus on those 2 symbols, go and stop. That's it. Hide 82 symbols, but don't move them around. No, think QWERTY keyboard. We're going to keep things in the same place to develop automaticity. Now we're going to go into 3. What is the third mistake that SLPs are making? Now, I see this all the time on Instagram. This is where I see it. People love it. They customize the device. Now, the reason you don't want to customize the device is that then you end up speaking a language of one. A language is the shared set of symbols. If the child has this customized this device, and this is what I've seen, that they would take a high-tech AAC device. It is the child's favorite TV shows, and that's what you see on the high-tech AAC device. The child gets to pick their favorite TV shows. I get it. This is important that the child's interested in it. However, what about a year from now when the child doesn't like those shows anymore? Then what are we going to do? So once again, we're going to have to change all the symbols. We don't have that automaticity of motor planning, motor programming. Who else speaks that language? Who else has that shared set of symbols where they have a device with 40 different TV shows that Sean loves? The other device is different. It's a different language. What happens when that device needs to be fixed? What happens when the child moves? What happens when the child has a different therapist? You don't want to customize the device. The same reason I don't want someone to come in and take my Mac or my PC. I want a Mac and a PC and be like, I'm going to make this a Kelly Vest customized device. And it's just like, and I'm going to change all the icons. Like, no, I need to speak the language of Mac and PC because I present so much. Wherever I go, here's the computer you're using. I need to be able to speak that language. I need to be bilingual. You no, I don't want this customized. I that would be very isolatory. My peers don't speak that language. My peers' laptops or computers that I'm gonna have to use when I go to a library or anywhere else, it's not formatted in this manner. So it's very isolatory to customize. If you have that icon, watch. That's okay. They're going to press watch, and then you're going to hand them the iPad or the phone, and they're going to find what they want to watch. You don't need to have that on their device. That's okay. They'll show you on the phone itself. Okay, that doesn't need to be put on the communication device that goes with them in all settings and is meant like a QWERTY keyboard to use for life, in which they've developed automaticity in using this language. And it's a language that their peers speak. So, in talking about that, I also want you to think about their other peers. And when you're picking a device, what are the devices that other kids in the class are using? So that they can have the same language that the other kids in the class are using. If it's a class where everyone's using Proloquo, you have to keep that in consideration that Proloquo would probably be a good option for them. If the other kids in the class are using Lamp for Life, then Lamp for Life would be. If Touch Chat HD, I believe it's called, that's what we're going to want to use, that same program. You have the pre-programmed displays where we're all speaking the same language here. We can communicate with one another. Let's look at the next one. This is a really big one. Number 4, not allowing children time to explore the device. A lot of people look at that when children explore the device as stimming. And it's not stimming. It's the same thing. We all stim. When I go to someone's house and I get the remote control, what am I doing? I go through every single channel. Yeah, sure. I want to know, where are the housewives? Where is the news channel? Where is Netflix? Where's Amazon Prime? Where's my Peacock? But no, I want to know every channel that they have. Okay, golf channel. No. I need to go through all of them. And then after that, I'm ready to go to my favorites. That's what these children are doing. They are checking out the device. And the good thing is, when they're checking out these devices, they are seeing the word. They're at the same time reading the print. They're hearing the word said. And then they're also going to say, okay, that is the category of the word. This is the function of the word, drink. Then I'm going to go and see a bunch of drinks. And then after that, I'm going to have a category of drinks. So they're going to learn about drinks. They're going to learn the function, feature, class of drinks. Places, the function, feature, class of places. This is some pretty nice exploring. I don't call it stemming. I call it educational, rich exploring. It's kind of like the same thing as a child looking through books. This is a great thing. We want to encourage exploring the device. I know it's really hard because people are saying all they're doing is pressing the buttons. It's like, that's what we would do too. When you get your new iPhone 16, you're going to want to press all the buttons on the first day. You're going to want to see what do each of these buttons do. And then you're only going to use 5 apps, but you're going to want to know each of the devices do, and you're going to want to have them accessible because you're going to be asked to use one of these apps that you're not currently using in the future by someone else that uses that app. You want to know what's on this phone. So this is a good thing, and especially in the high-tech devices that are in today, they're not just hearing, seeing words, they're seeing the words based on their function, their feature, their class, and their specificity, the specific label, the fringe label of them. So let's go and learning where everything is. So that is important. Support exploring the device. I always tell parents at home, it's like I know parents have a lot on their plate. Just let the child explore the device. Let them explore the device. This is kind of like a dictionary where they get to learn new words and they get to learn what is the function, what is the class of the word, what does the word sound like, what are features of the word, and they learn a lot of the language through their eyes. Most of the children I work with learn to talk through reading. So they read first and the speech comes second. Let's look at number 5. The last super, super common mistake is not thinking about literacy development. We know the research indicates that 30% of children with autism do not develop functional speech in their lifetime. However, if they have the ability to read and write, this could be extremely powerful. These could be children that have blogs and that have books that they're publishing. Their words can easily be text to speech brought out into the world in a form of a podcast or a speaking engagement. These children, through writing, really are going to have a voice, and it's going to be a really important voice in our next generation. The ability to read and write. That said, a lot of the children, when they get on those devices, they like to press the numbers and the letters, the symbols, and the phonics, where you press the letter and it says what sound it makes. And a lot of teachers are like, oh, all they're doing is pressing the letters. All they're doing is pressing the sounds that the letters make. They hate that. This is great. This is them developing letter knowledge and phonics knowledge. And we know from the research that phonics knowledge is an area that's very difficult for children with autism. So they need that repetition of hearing it over and over again. Another thing is most of my children's first words when they develop speech are letters and numbers. What happens is they develop consistency in speech. And when they are consistent and all the time when they see that letter 1 and that number 1 and they're saying 1 and they see the 2 and they're saying 2 and they can consistently produce the speech on demand, they consistently can say those letters on demand. What happens next is the other words soon develop. There's something about that consistency of producing that complex motor behavior of speech on demand, and doing it over and over and over again, that it improves the brain functioning from the cerebellum to the prefrontal cortex, where there's disruptions along those tracks. And it improves fluency, in which it says, like, I want to produce the number 1, 1. They see the number 1 and they do that complex behavior 2. And every single time the word comes out. And the way it happens is really neat, is it starts off as a vowel. So they're counting a hun, ho, he, har. And that's how it starts. And then the more they talk, the consonants flow in, and over time that becomes 1, 2, but it's that consistency. And then they start saying other words, and it's really exciting. Ball, bubbles, juice. But the numbers and the letters oftentimes come first. Embrace it. Embrace it. And I think it's because it is so visual and it's so consistent. And they get to see it. And we also sing it. We teach it in a Gestalt manner, which is how many learn language. We want to embrace that. So if they're pressing letters, awesome. If they're pressing what sounds the letters make, awesome. And then what a lot of them do is they start creating words on their devices by pressing the letters on the device. And then they go and it makes a sound, brah, and they combine the letters. They're blending the sounds together to write words. So this is not stimming. This is learning. This is really great use of their time. So those are the 5 common errors And there is gonna be countless more that we're making. I bet you by the end of this year, I can give you 100 errors that I've made this year with high-tech AAC. What we're gonna do right now is we're gonna roll up our sleeves and we're gonna do it messy, but by doing it messy, we're gonna learn from our failures and we're gonna learn from our successes and we're gonna do better. We're not gonna do better by looking back in the past before they had high-tech AAC devices, when we had less of an understanding of children with autism. We're going to do better by looking at the children with autism and looking how they successfully interact with technology. When we take that and we incorporate that into our speech therapy, we're going to become better at high-tech AAC devices. I can tell you in my practice and working with children with autism, and I've been working with them now for over 25 years, my leaps in practice, my moments where I had these eureka moments that changed everything, and we had huge leaps and gains, is when I paid attention to the children with autism and they showed me the discoveries. And this is one of the discoveries that they're showing us now that they have access to these phones and iPads. They're showing us that they're capable of so much more than we give them credit for. When we give them these high-tech AAC devices, what I find is a lot of my children like to show me, I know things you didn't teach me. I'm smarter than you think I am. And that's what I'm finding. That's what they're showing me with the devices. And I'm excited for all the experiences you're going to have where they have their own voice because of these devices and show you, I know things that no one's taught me that I have figured out on my own. And it's pretty exciting. So I want you to take all of this information, do what you do best, which is roll up your sleeves, make the world a better place, one child at a time. You are always going to be first. And by the way, if you haven't tried the SIS membership yet, that's something you're going to want to check out. In the SIS membership, we have all new speech and language targets. And with that, I have digital clips. I just revised them in 2025 in January to show you how I cue each of these targets. They're very powerful, they're very effective, and they're very appropriate to use for all of the children on your caseload, especially children with autism. Make sure to try the SIS membership, try it out for a month, and get your speech targets, get your cues. If you don't like it, cancel after a month, and you have all of these great targets at your fingertips that you can use with all of the children on your caseload. So take all this information, make the world a better place, and I'll see you next week.